Now, I think the question I sometimes hear is that why IoT when you have BMS as an option, right? BMS systems have been there, right? And I think BMS systems obviously have been around for decades now, and they are good automation systems. They have done their bit in their own age, but unfortunately they have not innovated as much as they should have, with time, and that's where there are gaps that are created by such systems. So I think what IoT helps over and above a BMS is that first I think it provides connected systems, and it provides a lot more visibility across the sites, which otherwise is confined to a BMS room. So, and unfortunately we have BMS operators which are not very highly skilled. So their interpretation of the data, their interpretation of managing the system is very, very different. But someone who is senior, a chief engineer or a director of engineering, or even the people in the leadership roles at corporates, they need different types of data points. They need correlation with business metrics, right? How do you start relating energy data with business metrics? For example, how do you do you have real-time access to what is my energy consumption per room night sold for yesterday? You should not be able to call up someone and let them do the analysis and give it to you, right? It should be just available right there on the dashboard on a continuous basis. What is it for yesterday? What is the average for 1 week? What is the average for 1 month? So that that if you're selling a room night at 5,000 rupees, right, or 10,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees, how much is your electricity cost out of it, right? Is it 300 rupees, 500 rupees, 700 rupees? We have to sort of understand that. The third is that, as I said earlier, it's 40 to 60% more cost effective, the system, right? Because the technology is such that it is a lot more hardware light. The traditional way of doing a lot of things in the BMS or other automation systems is that you do a lot of embedded processing. You have an end device, you do a lot of embedded processing, and that makes it super expensive. What IoT does is that it enables a lot more processing on the edge side, which is like a gateway. And we'll talk about the architecture. It pulls the data, to at the gateway level, and the gateway has its own processing. But then there is a lot more processing available at a much lower cost in the cloud. So you tend to architect the systems in a way that the hardware does the job of the hardware, and the software does the software job, and they are sort of decoupled from each other. So it's software rich, hardware light technology. And it's very easy to deploy. We have battery powered wireless technology. So you monitor space temperatures, very easy to deploy a temperature sensor on a wall, which is good looking. It doesn't have any wires. The batteries run standard 2 AAA batteries, last for 24 months, even if you are sampling at 1 minute resolution of data, which is very, very high sampling rate. And then finally, condition monitoring driven maintenance, right? So you have a lot more data, and that data drives the decision for maintenance, rather than doing just preventive maintenance and still not having a clue when the system is going to break down. So I think all these benefits that I just spoke about, that's what you get with IoT, and you can do a lot more than a BMS, with IoT at a fraction of a cost. So I think that's where I hope it answers that question. Why IoT when it comes to an adoption standpoint. A lot of people, I think, are still sort of figuring out whether they should adopt it or not because it's new. As human beings, we tend to be risk averse. But we have also seen a lot of progressive folks who would come and say that, look, IoT is the future, and that's where we need to invest in, as compared to going back to the the BMS world.